I'm Electoral Area D Director Ron Obrecht. The following presentation shows the draft 2022 budget for Area D after first reading. The budget is subject to change before second reading on February 17, 2022. I encourage you to provide feedback before then. Now, here's RDOS Manager of Finance, Jim Zaffino.
The following presentation is a high-level overview of the budget, and it's 500 pages, and here it is. To view detailed budgets, please visit the RDOS Regional Connections interactive website. To review any of the slides presented in this video, please hit pause. The following slides provide information about the RDOS Legislative Foundation. Each regional district is a corporation. The RDOS has 9 electoral areas represented by rural directors elected to their position. The 6 municipalities represented on the board appoint their members. Regional districts are not taxing authorities. Regional districts do not tax municipalities. Regional district taxes are based on the services, not the location. Some regional district services are legislated, including general government, solid waste management plans, and E911 telecommunications. Most regional district services are by choice. Property in the rural area will receive their tax notices from the Surveyor of Taxes, and the taxes are paid to the province. The following slides cover taxes. To review any of these slides, please hit pause. The following slides provide information about the RDOS budget structure. A regional district is different than a municipality. Regional districts create a separate budget for every service it operates. For the 2022 budget, the RDOS has 156 separate services and therefore 156 separate budgets. Separate budgets ensure only those who participate in the service pay for the service. The budget process launched in October 2021. The budget includes approved change requests. Budget workshops were held November 5th and 9th, 2021. The provincial legislation requires the budget to be adopted by March 31st, 2022. The following slides provide information about RDOS services. You can hit pause at any time to review the slides. You can also visit RDOS Regional Connections to view detailed budgets. Regional services are services where the majority of the electoral areas and municipalities participate. For regional services, all properties in the municipality and electoral areas contribute. Regional services include heritage, conservation, corporate facilities, legislative services, and regional trails. Rural services are services where the majority of the electoral areas participate. For rural services, all properties in the electoral area contribute. Rural services include animal control, electoral area administration and planning. Shared services are services where only those participating in the services pay for the shared services. Local services are services where only a defined group of properties within an electoral area participate. Examples include fire protection and water systems. Staff begin building budgets for each service in October. The 2022 budget is prepared along with the additional 4 years. New requests or changes come forward as program change requests. If approved, the item is added into the draft budget. The official title of the draft budget is 2022-2026 5-Year Financial Plan. The board can make changes to the budget up until it is adopted. Feedback from public consultation is presented to the board along with the budget bylaw for second and third reading and adoption. This slide talks about the property assessments overall for the electoral area D. It shows that 5.57% of the assessments for the total regional district belongs to D, which means that 5.57% where there's a regional service is paid for by area D. And as you can see by 21 and 22, it is fairly consistent. It has gone up some from 5.29 in 2021. The assessment increases for area D has increased by 35.77%. which is higher than the average of 28.89%. That means that electoral area D will bear a higher overall tax burden for the services which D participates in. Administration overhead is something that area directors have been talking about and are concerned about looking at and be fair for the expenses and charge out. The overhead is simply the costs that support the administrative costs for the 156 services. They are human resources, legislative services, finance, corporate services, and information services. So things like, for information services, an example would be IT. We all need the computers and the software and the licensing that goes with that to perform our jobs. So that cost would be part of the overhead, not the wages, just whatever is required to perform the duties. This slide here shows where the costs come from, and the biggest single increase for 2022 is information services, and that's because we need to keep the doors open and have the latest and the greatest software and hardware so that we're protected. This slide here talks about change request forms. There's a change request form for anything that is new and above the previous year's budget. The first change request form would be the grant and aids, as you can see here. These are all the requests that were made to the board and those that the board have approved. So there's not that many here. However, each year the grant and aids have to be reviewed and authorized or not approved by the board. Other change requests are change program requests, such as increase in staff or increase in service levels. The managers must provide a business plan to the directors. They review it and look at the consequences of approving it or looking at the consequences of not approving the extra costs. In this case here, you will see that it shows the actual services that are benefited from the request and the year 1 through year 5 for the actual cost that would be included in the budget. So in this case here, if something is approved this year, it automatically goes for the full term of the 5-year budget and ongoing. And this is just a continuation. There was a number of requests. This one here is the first one originally was a 1.75 FTE wage and salary increase. However, it was reduced to 1.14. And this one here is another increase in the staff for the engineering department, and 2 more for administrative assistant and administrative assistant coordinator. One area that I thought you may be interested in is the capital component, which benefits Area D. These capital costs were funded either by grants or by reserves. So at one point in the past, Area D contributed some of these reserves, so I thought you may be interested in the benefits that come out of it. The first 2 you can see here is 911 emergency call system. The building inspection software had to be upgraded. This is a carry forward, and it goes back a number of years. This is the regional trails and the different projects throughout the region for the regional trails, which again emphasize it's either grants or reserves. It's not a tax increase. This is the solid waste management plan. It's a carry forward from last year, which is important to look at what's required for the future for actual capital improvements. This is the Okanagan Falls fire protection capital requests. And again, I emphasize that this is not in the tax requisition. Money's either there or grants or donations in this case. OK Falls Recreation Commission. These are what was requested and came out of between the commission and authorized ultimately by the board. This one, rural projects. So this is something that the director has interest in, and staff has presented it to the board and has been approved. This is a comparison from one year to another for the RDOS budget 21 to 22. As you can see, there's a fairly consistent amount. There are anomalies. Are 7.2 million is a carry forward of capital projects from last year, and the one major project that increases the capital project materially, and that's for composting for $8 million, and that is mostly funded from grants. Area D tax requisition for 2022 is $2.7 million, which is a $185,000 increase over 2021, or a 7.21% increase. But once you take into account non-market growth, it is 5.67% increase. This is the breakdown of how the increase was arrived at. It's something new that I started with the 2022 budget. It shows the service, the actual amount that affects Area D, and why there's an increase. And this is a continuation of the material increase. This is the tax requisition for Area D. It shows the participating directors in the first slide, how it's arrived at and what Area D's portion is, and compared to 2021. And this is the tax requisition continued, and it shows where directors have a little bit more of authority and input on what the budget should be. However, the budget is approved as a whole by the board. And this is a tax requisition for at the municipal level, and it just again shows the variances. And the same thing here, except it's at the electoral area level. This is something that is also new. It shows the tax requisition for property values from $500,000 to $1 million, and it shows it at the municipal level and electoral area level. And this is the benefit each resident receive for each of the areas based on the current budget, and it shows the cost per capita. As you can see, the higher the population, as you can see for the municipalities like the Penticton and the Summerlands, they have more population, so their cost per capita would be lower. This is just a straight pie graph that shows where everyone is in the regional district budget circle, and this is information where you can review the budget. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. We look forward to receiving your feedback on Budget 2022.